Hey everybody, hope all is well. Today I want to talk to you about switching over campaigns in Google Ads from manual bidding to automated bidding strategies. And this is a very important thing to focus on because over the last few years, Google's automated bidding strategies have gotten way more advanced and way more useful and more successful. A lot of campaigns, rightfully so, like you'll set up a lot of campaigns that will be set up on manual bidding, manual CPC bidding. When I started out in this business, that was the best way to bid because Google had some early on automation available, but it wasn't real machine learning and it wasn't as advanced as it is today. And campaigns like that needed a lot more conversion data than they do now in order to actually work well. So you probably all have a lot of campaigns that have started out with automated bidding. And in fact, even today, like it's oftentimes the right move. I typically advocate for beginning a new Google Ads account or new campaigns using automated bidding, using manual CPC bidding. That's typically the best way to get some good traffic going to your website, to get some good data into the system. But once you have conversions going for a while, it's worthwhile to test automation. Now let's just take a step back for a second and talk about automation in general, what it is and why it's valuable, and also how you could approach talking about automation with your clients. Now, first of all, there's typically a fear around automated bidding. Like there's this concern that we hear from a lot of clients and from a lot of people. It's like, why would I switch my campaigns to automated bidding? Isn't Google going to just try to get me to spend more money and I'm giving up, control? Well, no, it's not really the case. Because if you think about it economically, Google is incentivized to have its customers, which is you, advertisers, or your clients, people who are advertising on Google. Google's economically incentivized to ultimately provide the best experience for all parties involved. And who are all the parties involved? Well, there's the advertiser, right? That might be you or your client. There's the advertiser, there's Google, and then there's the user that's using Google as a search engine. And Google's introduction of Quality Score back in 2005 was an indication that they're moving in that direction, meaning Google with Quality Score sacrificed short-term revenue for the sake of long-term revenue in the context of a better user experience. So Quality Score enabled advertisers with lower max CPC bids to actually win higher spots in the auction over other advertisers. And that meant that Google was not going to receive as much revenue per click as they would have done in a first price auction, or when the highest position and the highest ad rank was awarded to the person with the highest bid. But once it introduced Quality Score, it said, okay, if you have a really high quality ad and your click-through rate is really high, you'll actually pay less per click because we know, Google ultimately knows that we're going to make more money and we're going to generate more revenue that way. So that's a very fundamental thing to understand. So Google with its automated bidding strategies, they were never perfect and they're not perfect now, but Google's intention was never to have you give more control over to Google's systems for the sake of Google making more money and you making less money. That's not what they want to do. Google wants you to make the maximum amount of money as possible. And part of automation does is allows that to happen. Now let's compare automated bidding versus manual bidding for a second. When you're entering in manual bids, you're using the best information as possible for a group of people. But when you're using automated bidding, you're actually able to you're letting Google input their best possible bid for the individual. And that's a very important distinction because revenue is generated from the individual. Revenue for you or for your clients isn't generated through groups of people. So what do I mean by that? You have the option of when you're running manual campaigns, you have the option of day parting, right? So increasing or decreasing your bid or adjusting your bid positively or negatively for certain times of the day, for certain age groups, for certain demographics like gender or location, right? You can make all these different changes. You could choose your locations, and these are all things that you're doing based on group level optimizations. One of the biggest or most important group level optimizations you make in a Google Ads account is the keywords you choose. So an exact match keyword. So we're going to be looking at a client of ours, Karis Negotiating Seminars. They're a client that they're the number one negotiating seminar program in the world. They run around 300 two-day business seminars around the world in 95 countries each year, and they've trained almost all of the Fortune 500 companies in negotiating. And I actually attended the CAR seminar myself, and it's a great seminar. So we're going to be talking about that account. So let's just use them as an example for now. So say we target the keyword negotiating training. Now that's a group level optimization because we're saying anybody searching for negotiating training, we want them to see an ad. Okay, so well, how much am I going to bid for that? I don't know, I'll bid $20. Based on what? Based on the data I know about that keyword, based on how often that keyword converts. And it's a decision I make, how much I want to pay for a click, based on a group of people who will be performing that search. So it's a group level system of optimization. But not all people searching for negotiating training are of the same value. We talk about this a lot between keywords, like inter-keyword ranges of value. So somebody searching for negotiating training might be on average of a lower value than people searching for, on average, negotiating training seminars 2 days in-house in New York City, right? So that might, on average, the latter search term might lead to more conversions, and on average, the former search term might lead to fewer conversions. So I'll, for example, be willing to pay $15 for a click for the first search term negotiating training, but I'd be willing to pay $35 a click, and that might make economic sense based on group dynamics. However, that's not the best way possible to bid in an ideal world. In an ideal world, I would know the potential value, or I'd be able to predict the potential value of every individual search. So a lot of people who are searching for the first keyword, negotiating training, which on average is showing less commercial intent for this client, even based on the actual historic data. But there might be, let's say out of 50 people, there might be 10 of those people who are much more likely to buy or to sign up for a negotiating seminar than 10 people in the group of the latter search term, negotiating training in-house in New York City. Because Google might know, or there might be dimensions of data or behavioral characteristics that Google could pick up on that we don't have access to that would indicate who those people are. So for example, let's take the first search term. You have 50 searches for negotiating training. 40 of them are sort of like they may or may not buy, and 10 of them, let's say we had a magic 8 ball, 10 of them would buy. So in fact, we don't want to actually pay a maximum of $15 for all 50 of those. In an ideal world, we'd pay $50 for the 10 clicks that are going to buy, or $100, and we'd pay no dollars or $1 for the 40 searchers that are much less likely to buy. But because we have to make group level decisions, we choose to pay $15 maximum per click for that keyword. But Google might know a few other things, and Google does know a bunch of other things. Google knows where these people have been traveling to. Google knows what websites they've been visiting. Google knows previous buyer behaviors. Google might know if they actually attended a different business seminar 3 weeks ago. Google might know the cost of their home that they just purchased. Google might know the size of the company they work at, right? So there's literally thousands of other data points that Google has access to that we don't have access to. So that's all you're doing with automated bidding, is you're telling Google, like, listen, there's 50 people going to search for this keyword, and there's 50 people going to search for this keyword. If I had to make the decisions, I would just basically go on the either I would look at the historical data in the account, and I would say, okay, on average, these 50 clicks, or these 50, or this keyword doesn't lead to as many conversions, so I'll pay $15. And on average, this keyword is showing more commercial intent, and it's shown historically to lead to more conversions, and I'll pay $25 or $30. Or I'm predicting, I'm creating a new keyword list for a new account, and I'm saying, I think this will lead to more conversions, or I think this keyword will lead to fewer conversions. And you can get a little bit deeper, so then you could day part out and say, oh, I'm seeing a higher conversion rate in the afternoon hours, so I'm going to increase my bid then. Or I'm seeing a higher increase from Texas, I'm going to increase my bid there. And I'm seeing very few conversions from females 40 to 55, I'm going to decrease my bid adjustment there. So I could make a good amount of optimizations, and there's a lot of work to do. But when you give Google the option of choosing the bid for every individual auction, you're basically saying, listen, revenue, and this is the distinction, and this is how you pitch it to clients. Revenue doesn't come from the individual. Revenue doesn't come from the group. Revenue comes from the individual. So as many optimization strategies that you have at your disposal that will move you towards individual level bidding, you're increasing your chances of maximizing the revenue that you could possibly get from your ad dollars and scaling your campaigns. So that's a very, very strong case to be made for at least trying automated bidding, because that's what you're allowing Google to do on your behalf. Tap into their treasure troves of personal level data that will let Google say, oh, I see this keyword and I see this person, right? I see the context of the keyword and the context of all these other elements, but now I'm also able to tap into behavioral characteristics like their buying behavior, where they live, income bracket, and all these other dimensions that Google puts together to be able to determine what they should bid on any given click. So what we found is, and we found this time and time again, that when you switch to automated bidding, this is one of the most important things for you to understand. When you switch to automated bidding, there's a great likelihood that you're going to see an increase in CPC, and that's okay. And it's important for you to prime yourself for that, but it's also important for you to prime your clients for that. It's very likely that the cost per click is going to increase. The average CPC is going to increase. And why do you think that is? Well, the whole idea with automation is that you want Google to spend as much of your money on clicks from people that are likely to buy. So we call those here at Adventure Media premium auctions. And the demarcation between premium and non-premium, it's very vague because it's based on data points like we just discussed that you cannot see. It's based on Google knowing a person's previous GPS data, or if they've attended a business seminar a few weeks ago, or how much money they make, or the size of their company, or whatever dimensions that Google thinks play a role in predicting a conversion. So it's not simple, but what's going to happen is Google's going to start really reducing your bids on searches that, even if it's for a specific keyword that you think is a good keyword, but if it's a specific individual that's not likely to convert in Google's eyes, Google's going to significantly reduce the bid. Now, Google's going to significantly increase the bid on searches that they predict are likely to actually convert for you. So with, just to pause for a second, with automated bidding, you are able to set a bid cap or a target CPA. Like you're going to tell Google, like, yeah, you could control the individual bid as much as you'd like, but we want to, but we want to not pay more than this for an actual conversion. So that's something which is very worthwhile to understand as well. So you're going to see an increase in CPC because you're going to be entering into more premium auctions, and that's okay. CPC, you have to start showing your clients, telling your clients, and also understanding this for your own campaign, that CPC, cost per click, is no longer a metric. Well, it hasn't really been a metric worth analyzing too much, but it's certainly no longer a metric that indicates anything. And if anything, an increase in CPC actually indicates a good thing, because you're in a live auction system competing against other advertisers. So if your CPC increases, it's a clear indication that the search term was a better search term, and that more than just the search term being a better search term, is an indication that the individual is a more worthy potential customer that Google reasonably predicts has a higher chance of converting. And once you start getting more campaigns on automated bidding and they're successful, and like you're seeing your conversion rate go up and your revenue go up and your profit go up, there is obviously the fear of like losing a client, because it's like, okay, you're managing keywords, but a lot of the work you were doing was all these manual bid changes and making adjustments, and some of those things with campaigns that are manual or that are automated are going to become obviated. There's not going to be any necessity for doing those. So like, what do you do in those types of situations? Well, what we've done is we've figured out all these other ways of adding value to our clients. So we're doing more conversion rate optimization. We're testing different elements on landing pages. We're creating more new campaigns. We're doing more video content and video campaigns. We're doing even different digital marketing services like influencer marketing and things like that. We're doing a lot of Facebook advertising. Just because you should never be afraid that your value in your client's eyes will be reduced if you do things that make the campaigns more successful. That will never happen. That's never happened to us. We've never had a situation where we've adopted more automated bidding strategies in Google Ads and our client's like, oh, well, we don't need you. 10 out of 10 times where the automated bidding strategies have worked, and it doesn't work in every single account, but in many accounts it works very, very well. 10 out of 10 times, clients have come to us and said, wow, like this is excellent. What else could you do for us? Because you're making them more money. And when you're making your clients more money, they're not looking to cut money. That's a big thing in business to understand. When a client of yours is doing well overall, their attitude is not where can I shave money, where can I save money, what could I pull money from to become more economical. That's not the attitude of the business. When a company is doing well, and by the way, this is true even if two of your AdWords campaigns aren't doing well, or even if your AdWords campaigns overall aren't doing well, if the company overall is doing well, their attitude is like, how could we make more money? Like, where else could we spend money to generate more money? So that's an opportunity. So if you understand that that's the dynamic of a business owner, then there really should be no fear of adopting more automated bidding strategies in your Google Ads campaigns and being afraid that clients will then see you not as valuable just because there's fewer changes logged in the change history tool. If they see the campaigns becoming more successful under your watch, then they're going to be like, okay, here's more money. What else could we do? What else could we do together? And like that's the trajectory that we have seen over and over and over again with our clients. So it's very, very effective and very worthwhile to at least test this. Okay, so now that you have a basic understanding of like the theory of automated bidding and premium auctions and expecting to see an increase in CPC and what you're really doing individual versus group, and how to express this to a client and how to overcome the fear of becoming or losing the value that your clients think you're providing. And I'll have other lectures where I talk more about conversion rate optimization and influencer marketing and like the actual ins and outs of those services. But let's talk about practically, how are you going to start adopting bidding strategies that are automated inside Google Ad campaigns, especially for campaigns that have already existed under manual CPC bidding. So that's what I'm going to show you here today. So let's jump into the account and let's take a look at what we have going on in the Karus Negotiating Google Ads account. Okay, so here I am back in the account, and I'm going to show you quickly what my approach would be to switching some campaigns from manual bidding to automated bidding. So we're here at the campaign level of search campaigns, and we have our budget, our clicks, etc. And if you want to see the actual bidding type, you could do that through adding a custom column. So we go to column, modify columns, and we could just search for bid, and you could do bid strategy, and you could add bid strategy type as well. And I would drag those up towards the top. I don't usually have those columns just because I usually know what bid strategy. And as you can see, these are all manual CPC. And once you create portfolio bid strategies, if you do that, you'll see that in the bid strategy column. So all these campaigns are on manual CPC. Now you don't necessarily want to go and change a manual CPC campaign fully to automated bidding right away. You want to be able to test it to see if it's going to work. And you also want to give it some time to get its legs. Automated bidding doesn't kick in its full strength right away because it's an algorithm it has to learn, and it gets smarter over time. Your CPA will be higher in the beginning. Your CPC will gradually go up. It'll eventually level off, but you will see an increase in CPC, and that won't necessarily come back down. But again, like we said, CPC is not that important. But you'll usually see an increase in your CPA, your cost per conversion in the beginning, and then it'll come down as the algorithm gives it more time. So a couple guidelines here. You want to really aim for using automated bidding when you have 5 conversions a day. Now, at least 5 conversions a day. Now, let's say you don't have 5 of your true conversions a day. You could create secondary conversions. So maybe the view, and I've spoken about this before, maybe the view of a key page, or downloading an ebook or a white paper, or filling out a secondary form, or signing up for a newsletter. All those actions, if you happen to know based on your historic data from your own CRM, your own business, your own experience, that certain activities on your site are more likely to they are an indication that a specific user is more likely to convert than somebody who has not performed one of those actions, count that micro action as a conversion. And you'll be feeding Google more data about conversions, and you'll be giving Google a richer perspective of who your quality users are, and then they can match it up with all these other data dimensions. And that's something, again, that we've seen work very well in a lot of our client accounts. One of our largest client, we did this for. So they get a certain amount of conversions every day, but their actual high-level conversions that they're tracking, it's a very, very expensive product. Like, these are 6- and 7-figure deals for our client per year. So we created a bunch of micro conversions and we fed that conversion data into Google's algorithms for automated bidding campaigns, and we saw a significant increase in conversion rate for our most macro conversion, for the most valuable conversion, and a decrease in its CPA. So it definitely works, but you might need to feed the system more data. So I'm going to go over here into this campaign. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a draft. And then from the draft, we're going to create an experiment. And what that's going to allow us to do is send 50% of the traffic for any given campaign to its original campaign with its manual CPC bidding, and 50% of its traffic to the mirror image experiment campaign that's bidding based on a automated bidding strategy that we choose. I'm not going to go into all the different automated bidding strategies in detail in this lecture, but the number one most popular automated bidding strategy is target CPA bidding, where you're basically telling Google you could pay whatever you want for a click. I don't care. I just want you to aim to get me conversions at a certain cost. So I'm going to click into this. Well, I'm actually don't have to click into any campaign for now, because we're going to go into drafts and experiments. I just want to sort this by cost first. Okay, and we're going to probably use. We're probably going to use this campaign. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It's like you'll start the basic idea is start off testing automated bidding with the campaigns that are generating the most cost and that are generating the most conversions. So we're going to go down here in Google Ads at the campaign level and go to drafts and experiments, and we're going to create a new draft either by clicking this blue button or clicking new draft over here, and we're going to select our campaign. You have to have a base campaign that you're basing a draft off of. So you could search, and I'm going to find my campaign. You name the draft. So I'll name this something like Target CPA Draft. You can make a description, doesn't matter. And I'll click Save. And I want to go into my settings. So now I'm in a draft of this exact campaign. So Google Ads basically duplicated the entire campaign, and down here is a draft. So I don't want to touch anything else because you want it to be a really good test. So the best thing you could do for a test is isolating variables. So it's a strict A/B test. We're not trying to multivariate tests, meaning we're not trying to see if target CPA works better and a different ad works better or a different ad group structure works better, because that is harder to analyze and it takes a lot more data if you want to get multivariate test results that are statistically significant. So we're just going to change one variable. And what is that one variable going to be? We're going to change the bidding strategy. So we go down to the settings and we go into our bidding settings. So open up bidding and we're going to click change bid strategy. And we're going to basically say or select a different bidding strategy down here, because I like to select from my full list. And we're going to go up to target CPA. So Google has all these different automated bidding strategies. Maximize clicks and maximize conversions are sometimes applicable when you don't really care about what your CPA is, but for most 99.9% of you and your clients do care about a target CPA. Like there's not an unlimited amount of money that you're willing to pay for a conversion. So I'm going to select target CPA, and Google gives me a recommendation based on my historic data. So I'm going to actually make that a little bit higher, and that's what I typically do. So I'm going to go to $450 for a CPA, and I know that my client would be perfectly okay with that. That would actually be quite good. So I might even go into like $500. And if Google's giving you a suggested target CPA lower than what you're willing to pay, that's a very good sign. That's usually an indication that target CPA bidding is going to work well for you. And if you happen to know that the client's willing to pay more than that for a conversion, go ahead and increase that CPA. So I'm going to change that to $500, and I'm going to click Save. And that's all I need to do in my draft experiment. So now I've configured my draft, and nothing has happened yet, right? I need to actually either launch these changes fully or turn them into an experiment. The way to do that is I click on Apply up here in the top navigational menu. And you don't want to apply the changes to the original campaign, because if you do that, it will override your existing campaign and you won't be running an A/B test any longer. So you want to click Run an Experiment, and I click Apply. So I'm going to name the experiment Target CPA, and I like to put in the target CPA number I have here just so I remember. I don't need a description because that does it for me. And I can either select an end date. So I manage this account actively, so I don't need to have a specific end date. So I'm going to let it go until I want to end it. So I'm going to click None, and the experiment split. So what percentage of traffic do I want going to this new campaign? So I'll give it 50%, but in this case, I already told the client that we're going to try this, and the client's really on board with it, and he's really excited to try automated bidding. So I'm going to give it 70% of the traffic. Lastly, you have search-based and cookie-based split test options. Without going into too much detail, search-based, usually when you run a search-based split test, it means that the same searcher might see multiple variations of whatever changes you've made. Not that the changes that we're making aren't visible, so it doesn't really matter. Cookie-based just typically does a better job at making sure that the specific user only experiences or is exposed to one version of your experiment throughout whatever search history that person has. So like for just for example, to make it a little bit clearer, say you're split testing ads, right? Like, your base campaign has, ad copy A, A1, A2, A3, and your experiment campaign is A copy B, B1, B2, B3. Search based, if I'm searching for a keyword on Monday and then I search for that same keyword again on Tuesday, I might see two different versions of the ad. And you might, not that it really necessarily pollutes the data, but cookie-based split test experiment option basically will make sure, Google will make sure to serve me the same version of the campaign. So on Monday, if I saw A3, I'll see one of the ads from campaign. I'll see A4, A2, A3, or A. I won't see the B ads. So I typically just leave it on default as cookie-based. I don't really know of any reason why. I don't really know why anyone would opt for search-based split test over cookie-based. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. So click Save. And once you click Save, you'll see the status set as creating. And that might take a few minutes. You could sometimes just refresh the page to see where it's holding. And even though it says that it's still creating, we see that the beacon icon campaign is right over here. So under the enabled campaigns, I have this target CPA at $500, and I could actually just treat it like any other campaign. And at the top, though, every time I go there, it's going to show me exactly the results from this campaign and whether or not they're statistically valid. And I see a little bit of overview over here on the right-hand corner that is showing me a 70% split. It's cookie-based. It's ongoing from April 6th, and this is the original campaign. So it's very, very useful. It's really cool. But once you're in here, you could just treat it like any other campaign and see all its data and see the overview and see the ad groups you have running. You have the settings, keywords, so on and so forth. It's very exciting. So what I'm looking at over here is blank because it hasn't been done. It hasn't finished its creation process. It's sort of coming in piece by piece here. So I have some ad groups and campaigns. It says campaign pending, but you give it a couple minutes, and after a few minutes, this campaign will be active. And then we'll come back and we'll see exactly what's happening. And again, over here, you see the status of the experiment. It's creating, and it's a $300 a day budget. And just in terms of budget, a lot of people get confused. You're not duplicating your budget. So if your base campaign over here has a $300 a day budget, that means it's going to, and you're doing between the two campaigns, this base campaign and its experiment sister campaign will not spend more than a combined $300. Or we know that Google could overspend your budget, but it's not being treated as two separate. It's not being treated as two separate campaigns. I'm actually going to increase this budget because that's something we're supposed to do for our client anyway. And that's a very good way of beginning to begin getting your feet wet with automation. Now, as you have more experience and as you develop more rapport with your client, there might be campaigns where you're just going to switch off and be like, okay, this is not as important of a campaign. If the data and the results become a little bit unstable and change, it's not going to be the end of the world. And it's worth it because we know we've been having a good track record with automation, and it's worth it to just change this campaign entirely. And if that's the case, you forget the draft, you forget the experiment, you just go into the campaign, go into settings, go into bidding, and change the bidding strategy around and let that run and see how that plays out. And of course, it's very important to always remember you have to have conversion tracking set up properly in order for any target CPA or target conversions or maximize conversions automated bidding strategy to work. But once you do have conversion set up properly, it's unbelievably valuable. It's unbelievably effective. And I strongly encourage you to try it because we've seen such an improvement in our client accounts, and we've seen a very strong improvement in our client relationships, and we're able to make more money from our clients because now that Google Ads is doing really well and we have more time on our hands, we're able to charge our clients $2,000 a month for influencer marketing, and we could charge our clients $15,000 for a host of landing pages and some conversion rate optimization and user testing and user surveys and all these other ancillary digital marketing services. And that's how you grow your agency. You maximize your own profit by spending less time and doing better work. And that's exactly what this does. You're saving time you're increasing retention, you're increasing client value, and ultimately you're making more money without having to increase your own expenses. And that's what's very, very powerful about here. So we see back here the campaign. Let's just make sure that this campaign, this target CPA experiment, is still creating. I'll typically stick around just to make sure it gets created, because once in a while you'll get a bug and you'll have to redo it, but it doesn't take long, and it usually works really, really well. Okay, so experiment status is scheduled. It's working. It's up and running. All our ad groups are filled out over here. And I still have my draft, but the draft is just an empty draft. You could just leave it there. It doesn't really matter. It's just a draft. And what we did was we that's how you launch experiments. There's no way to launch an experiment without first launching a draft. So you have to go into drafts. You create a draft. And then you launch a draft as an experiment of its original campaign. That is exactly how the system works. It's very, very cool. Now, what about analyzing the results of an experiment campaign and taking a look at that, and then making decisions based on the results that you see? So let's go take a look at an account that has an experiment running already, that's running right now, that has more data in it. So here we are in an account that has it has an experiment running right now. It hasn't been running for all that long, but we do have some data. So if we go into the experiment campaign, and the experiment campaign is signified by a beacon, that's how you know it's an experiment campaign. We can see that it has clicks, and it shows you the click data overall, click-through rate, cost, conversion rate, and cost per conversion. You could change those metrics by going down here, by opening up twirling down this secondary menu. But it also, Google gives you the most fundamental metrics you want to look at usually. So the most important thing is down here, where it shows you the statistical significance of the difference between this campaign and its base campaign. If you want to understand what they mean, you hover over this icon, this little asterisk, and when you have a blue asterisk, it means that the results are statistically significant, with a p-value being less than 5%. And that's the typical p-value used in the social sciences and in advertising and things like that, and basic statistics. When it's brain surgery, you're looking for a p-value of less than 1%. Our p-value is lower than 1%. But anyway, what this means is that there's a less than 1% chance of getting this performance due to randomness. So it's a 99% chance that this is a campaign that's going to generate fewer clicks. Okay, and click-through rate, it's going to generate a lower click-through rate, but it's also going to generate a much lower cost, 74% decrease in cost. And conversion rate and cost per conversion, you see that there's no data here. It's just a line. What that means is that there is no statistically relevant data yet. Now, this campaign has only been running for a few days, so we don't know yet what the conversion rate and cost per conversion will be. Now, this happens to be a target ROAS bidding strategy, target return on ad spend. It's different than target CPA. Again, not to get into the details of that yet, but that's just how to analyze the results of this campaign. Now, for example, say we saw that the conversion rate was going to be higher, and there were statistically significant results. And by the way, that's one of the beautiful things about experiment campaigns. Google does the math for you. It takes the guesswork out. When Google tells you something is statistically significant at a 99% confidence interval, that's not them being manipulative. That's just pure math. And you should be confident that that's true. Like, that's how statistics works. So if I saw that the conversion rate and cost per conversion, and the cost per conversion was statistically going to be lower, and the conversion rate was going to be statistically higher, then what I would do is I would click apply. So if I click apply, I have the option to convert it to a new campaign or update my original campaign, and I'll typically update my original campaign to keep my account cleaner. And once you click apply here, it's going to update that, and it's going to shut down this experiment, and this beacon and this campaign will be gone. It'll be off. It'll be gone because you're going to be updating its original campaign. Or I could end the experiment now and shift back whatever budget I've been shifted here, this 25% of the budget. I could shift that back to its base campaign. Now, I want to point out one more thing. When you see a decrease in clicks, click-through rate, when you see a decrease in clicks and cost, you have to take into account the percentage of spend that you gave this campaign experiment. So over here, we see that we gave this experiment 25% of our budget. So of course we're going to see, or it's very reasonable to expect a decrease in cost and a decrease in clicks. That doesn't necessarily, it's not a reflection. The decrease in clicks and the decrease in cost is not a reflection necessarily of a different type of bidding strategy. It's a reflection of just giving it less budget, fewer clicks and fewer cost. But if you see an increase in conversion rate and a statistically significant decrease in cost per conversion, that has nothing to do with the percentage of budget that you've given it. That would have to do only with the variables changed
in the experiment campaign. So you have the option over here to either apply the changes if you like the results, or if the results have been positive, or you end the experiment if the experiment has been proven to be statistically, or there's statistical confidence that this experiment variable, let's say over here we change the bidding strategy, or whatever else you changed, those changes are not resulting in better performance than the base campaign. So then what you would do is you would end the campaign and just start a new experiment testing new variables. So I always suggest running these sorts of experiments. One is because you're actually trying to find improvements in a very statistically significant and sophisticated way. It's a very, very good way of looking for performance improvements across every campaign, regardless of whether or not you're testing automated bidding strategies. Even if you're testing different bid adjustments, right? It's a very, very good way to do it, and you could just give it 50% of the budget or the traffic. The second big benefit is in terms of building a rapport with your clients. When you show a client we've launched an experiment testing this bidding strategy against our current best bidding strategy, and we're going to be looking for a statistically significant increase in conversion rate and a statistically significant decrease in cost per conversion, and we're going to be using a p-value of it being less than 5% before we determine our results, and this is going to take 3-4 weeks, and we're giving it 50% of our budget. All of a sudden, like, you're talking like a compelling, sophisticated marketer. And if you guys have heard a lot of my lectures, it's something I always talk about, right? Talking about marketing in a compelling, sophisticated way, data-oriented, empirical way. Like, that's what makes that's what impresses clients to a huge extent. And that's how you increase the retention of your clients, by doing these two things simultaneously. You're showing off your best foot, you're being sophisticated, you're being intelligent, you're sticking with as many best practices as possible. You're basing your decisions off empirical evidence as opposed to anecdotal evidence. Like, you're not just willy-nilly trying all these different types of things and not keeping good records of it. Like, you're running drafts and experiments that actually keep records of every single change and keep the KPIs that matter. And you have the ability right within Google Ads to easily make decisions based on statistically relevant data. And you're also showing your clients, so you're increasing performance, that increases retention, but you're also just showing your clients that you're a sophisticated, thoughtful team, and that just increases the value of the perceptual value that your client has of you as a freelancer or agency owner and your team. So it's a very, very powerful thing. So just to tie it full circle here, think about automated bidding. Think about which clients of yours and which campaigns you could test automated bidding. Think about all the time you're saving by successfully implementing automated bidding, and then what you could do and how much more money you could make with that free time. And then think about how much more you'll retain clients if you're doing a better job for them. Think about feeding the system more conversions. And if you don't have enough macro conversions a day, those bottom of the funnel conversions, feed the system more micro conversions. And run tests of automated bidding as campaign experiments for all the reasons I just described, because you'll be just much more of a compelling marketer. You'll retain your clients, and ultimately, by freeing up your time, you can provide more services, charge more money. And by the way, let's not forget, if the campaigns scale and if automated bidding does well, profit increases, revenue increases, return on ad spend increases, conversion rate increases, your client campaigns will also scale, and most likely you're charging clients in some sort of structure based on your total spend in the account, and you're going to be able to charge your clients more just for the Google Ads management, aside from the extra time that you'll be able to put into other ancillary services that will also provide more value, because those are things that, of course, you'll be able to charge your clients for. So I hope this was enjoyable. I hope this was helpful. I think it opens a huge door of opportunity in optimizing Google Ads campaigns. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lecture. Cheers for now.